I've lived on my 20-acre patch of pine forest and open pastureland for nearly 15 years. It's quiet, private, and far enough from town that the stars still look like pinholes into something bright. When I bought the property, the land wasn't tied to any HOA. I made sure of it, twice. I don't mind neighbors, but I do mind people with clipboards. So imagine my surprise when Pine Ridge Estates HOA, a brand new subdivision built a mile down the road, decided that my land somehow fell under their jurisdiction. That was the beginning. The end, well, that came when the HOA hired men to forcibly secure the disputed territory, and I stopped them with the most ridiculous, over-engineered, beautiful security setup I've ever created. But let's start where things first went sideways. The HOA letter that started everything. It arrived in a crisp white envelope stamped with a logo of pine trees arranged like prison bars. Greater than, Notice of Association Integration. Apparently, the HOA had voted that all adjacent properties within a unified environmental boundary should be harmonized into their community rules. In simple terms, they voted my land into their HOA, with no consent from me. The letter continued, greater than, your property will be subject to architectural review, visual compliance, and community standards. Fines may be applied for non-compliant features, including outbuildings, fencing, and vehicle storage. My land has 3 metal barns, 4 tractors, 14 chickens, a rusted school bus converted into a workshop, and a shooting range made of dirt mounds and old steel plates. In HOA terms, this meant I was basically running a visual apocalypse. I called them immediately. A woman answered, cheerfully, too cheerfully. Pine Ridge Estates HOA, this is Carol speaking, she said with a tone like a smile stretched too tight. You sent me a letter, I said. About joining your HOA. Yes, you're in District B now. Congratulations. No, I said, I'm not. There was a pause. A cold one. Sir, the board already voted. I don't care if they consulted a psychic, I snapped. My land isn't part of your development. Well, it is now, she chirped. Please attend the compliance walkthrough next Friday. I hung up, and that should have been the end. But HOAs never let anything end quietly. The first visit, Friday arrived. At 9 a.m. sharp, 3 SUVs pulled up my driveway like a convoy of disappointed parents. Out stepped Carol, a man in khakis with a drone, another man with a laser measuring tool, and 2 teenagers wearing fluorescent, compliance intern, vests. I didn't even know HOAs could have interns. Good morning, Carol called. We're here for the walkthrough. No, I repeated, leaning on my fence. You're trespassing. We're the governing body now, she said, waving a clipboard like a declaration of war. You'll want to make this easy. They spent an hour marching around my land anyway, taping things, photographing things, arguing over the non-standard chicken enclosure aesthetic. When they left, they handed me a packet of violations the thickness of a phone book. The fines totaled $14,850, and they expected it paid in 30 days. I didn't even bother arguing. This wasn't a mistake. This was a power grab. The subdivision wanted my land, and the HOA board was testing how far they could push. So I pushed back harder. I contacted the county recorder, the zoning office, and my lawyer. All confirmed the same thing. They had zero jurisdiction. None. Their integration vote was legally meaningless. Armed with this, I emailed the HOA board a simple sentence. Greater than, set foot on my land again and you'll be dealing with law enforcement, not me. I thought this would end the nonsense. Instead, it escalated into something far stranger. The HOA's security team. 3 weeks later, around dusk, I heard engines rumbling in the woods behind my pasture. Not cars, ATVs. Multiple. I rushed outside and spotted moving headlights weaving between the trees. Moments later, 4 men in tactical vests rolled out of the tree line and stopped 200 feet from my barn. Not police, not government, not even repo men. These guys were private security. Their jackets read, greater than, Pine Ridge Protective Services. They were armed, not pointing weapons, but carrying them openly. The lead guy stepped forward. Sir, he called, this area is now under Pine Ridge Estates security protocols. We're here to establish compliance checkpoints. I walked toward them slowly, keeping distance. This is my property, I said. You're trespassing. Leave. We were contracted by the HOA to secure disputed land during arbitration, the man replied. There is no arbitration. That's not what we were told. I realized what the HOA was doing. If they could enforce me legally, they'd try to intimidate me physically, by using private security to claim squatters' rights or pressure me into backing down. Well, the man added, we'll be patrolling nightly. Just letting you know. They revved their engines and disappeared back into the dark woods. I stood there listening as their motors faded. They'd come from the other side of the property, the side closest to the subdivision. From their point of view, my land looked like free real estate, and if they were patrolling at night, I needed to make sure they'd never try entering again. So that night, I began building something. Something very loud, very legal, and very discouraging. My overnight project. The welcome system. Before I reveal what I built, let me say this. I'm a retired mechanical engineer with a deep love of remote sensors, hydraulic gadgets, high-powered lights, and prank-level overkill. In other words, I'm a menace with tools. By the next evening, my setup was finished, stretched across the entire wooded section where the security team had entered. What did I install? Nothing dangerous, nothing harmful, but incredibly effective. 1. Motion-triggered 10,000 lumen flood towers. Imagine daylight exploding in the woods whenever someone moves. Powerful enough that you can see the insects blinking in confusion. 2. A PA announcement trigger. When the lights activate, a loudspeaker booms. Greater than, warning, private property. Trespassing will be reported. Professional, clear, legal. 3. The real star. My sonic deterrent system. This is basically a set of long-range directional speakers I once built for scaring coyotes away from the chickens. When triggered, they emit a low pulse, a rising oscillation, and a burst of sound just below painful levels. It doesn't hurt anyone, but it absolutely ruins the desire to be in the area. Combined together, the system created a sensory experience like wandering into an angry UFO landing. Everything was camera recorded and streamed to my phone. I tested it. It worked like a charm. Now I waited. The night the HOA came back. It was 2 nights later, 1:42 a.m., when my phone pinged. Motion detected. Zone 3. I opened the feed. There they were, 5 figures creeping through the tree line, carrying gear. The same private security team, judging by the helmets and vests. They weren't on the ATV trail this time. They were on foot, moving slowly, flashlights low. Trying to avoid detection. The lead man lifted his hand. They were preparing to enter my clearing. I tapped the command on my phone. And the forest exploded with daylight. 10,000 lumens blasting through the pines. Shadows shooting in every direction. Every branch glowing like it was on stage. The men froze instantly. Then the PA system thundered. Greater than, warning, private property. Trespassing will be reported. The leader shouted, what the? One man actually dropped his flashlight. Before they could recover, the sonic system kicked in. A low hum rose like a swarm of mechanical hornets. A vibrating pulse followed, rattling leaves off branches. Then a powerful oscillation swept through the air. Not painful, but utterly overwhelming. The men staggered. One clutched his ears. Another yelled, retreat, retreat. They bolted, tripping, crashing into brush, scrambling away like a pack of raccoons that had seen God. The floodlights followed them all the way out until they vanished into the night. I saved every second of footage. The HOA tries to play the victim. The next morning, I received an official HOA email. Greater than, your aggressive behavior toward our security team is unacceptable. My behavior. I replied by attaching the full video, a copy of my property deed, a statement from the county, and a declaration that if they repeated their actions, I would file criminal trespassing charges against the HOA board personally. Within an hour, a different email came. This one from the private security company. Greater than, we were misled regarding the property lines. We have terminated our contract with Pine Ridge Estates HOA effective immediately. That alone told me everything I needed. But the real explosion came later that afternoon. Law enforcement arrives. with questions for the HOA. 2 deputies knocked on my door. They said they'd received multiple complaints from me, and several false counter-complaints from the HOA, and now they needed the truth. I showed them the footage. The deputies watched in silence. When the part with the floodlights triggered, one laughed under his breath. "That's actually genius," he said. By the end, both deputies agreed the HOA had committed trespassing, false claims, misuse of private security, and potential attempted land seizure. They thanked me and left to have a conversation with the board. I heard through the grapevine that the board meeting that night was volatile. Apparently, most residents had no idea their HOA board was spending community funds hiring private security to annex neighboring land. Several homeowners demanded resignations. One board member complied immediately. Carol did not, but she would soon. The final showdown. A week later, Carol showed up at my gate herself. No SUVs, no security team, no clipboard army. She looked tired, defeated. "I came to apologize," she said stiffly. "The board overstepped. You led the charge," I reminded her. She winced. "We thought expanding the HOA would increase property value," she admitted. "The developers encouraged it, strongly." There it was. The subdivision wanted my land for future expansion, and the HOA had been their weapon. "It ends here," I said. She nodded. "We've officially withdrawn any claim over your property. The board voted to restrict involvement to our original development boundaries. Permanently." "Good." She hesitated. "And the residents want the old board dissolved. There will be new elections. A political coup. All because she wanted my barn painted earth tone beige." I nodded and closed the gate. The aftermath. Word spread fast. The new HOA board issued a formal statement acknowledging the boundary overreach, the misuse of funds, and the illegal patrols. They refunded every homeowner's contribution used for the private security contract. The private security company even sent me a letter apologizing for the incident. Carol resigned a month later. As for me, I left my deterrent system in place. It's useful for coyotes, teenagers sneaking onto my land to film TikToks, and apparently, HOA patrol teams. Sometimes I sit on my porch at night with the lights off, listening to the forest. It's quiet again. Peaceful. Because now everybody knows. If you try to take my land, I'll defend it. Legally, ingeniously, and in a way you'll never forget. And if Pine Ridge ever thinks about expanding again, well, my floodlights are fully charged, and my speakers are louder than ever.